another episode of Turn Left. I am your host, Indiana's own Dana Black, coming to you live. Yes, all the way live from Black Bro Studios, where we talk about Indiana politics from the left side of things. Well, General Assembly session is wrapping up this week. And once again, Indiana, we are the laughing stock of the nation. Real talk. Laughing stock. I mean, yes, Montana's pretty bad for expelling the transgender legislator. Absolutely. Kansas is awful because, they passed a bathroom bill that says you can only go into the bathroom that you were assigned at birth. Now, I'm gender nonconforming, and some days you can't tell what my gender is. I'm super curious. Who's going to be the genitalia police? Who is going to be looking down my drawers to make sure I'm going to the right bathroom? I imagine that Indiana is working on very similar legislation. I don't know how many more ways Republicans can tell us that they do not like the LGBTQ plus community, and they're willing to write discriminatory laws to make it more harmful for us. I'm not trans, I'm gender nonconforming, but for all of us in the LGBTQ plus community to walk this earth without harassment. What did we do that has you so shook up? What are you so scared of? What are you so nervous about? We just everyday tax-paying citizens trying to live our lives. But we are apparently a threat that is everything human, apparently. Just regular old trans people. But you know what? I ain't never seen a trans woman molest kids. I haven't heard that. I haven't seen a trans man. Haven't heard of a trans man harassing people in the bathrooms. That's something straight men do. I'm just going to be honest with y'all. I don't have nothing against straight dudes, but let's be clear. You worried about straight men dressing up as women harassing little people in a bathroom. It's not trans people. So why don't you write the legislation for straight men? Oh, you won't do that. You won't actually acknowledge the real problem. I got you. But that's Indiana for you. Let's talk about it. Following the national trend in Republican-controlled states, the Indiana House and Senate both voted Thursday afternoon to ban books. Lawmakers have deemed offensive in school libraries, a measure they inserted into legislation behind closed doors in the waning hours of the session. The bill now goes to Governor Holcomb's desk. Lawmakers added language Thursday to House Bill 1447 that would classify literature harmful to minors under the same umbrella as certain books with obscenities like pornography. That already had not been allowed. Librarians who violate the law could be charged with a level 6 felony, which includes up to 2.5 years in jail with a $10,000 fine, according to the Indiana Code, harmful to minors. Nudity, sexual content, or masochistic abuse, persuasiveness for minors to engage in sexual activities, offensive content to community standards for adult considering what's suitable for minors to see, content void of serious literary, artistic, political, or scientific value. The legislation would require school libraries to establish a book review process, a measure already present in most libraries. Now, I find it interesting that they want to ban books that are considered harmful to children, but at the same time, the same body that passed, oh my God, we got to protect kids from books. Globe Echo World News reports, in the previous legislative session, Indiana lawmakers repealed permit requirements for those carrying a gun in public. All residents 18 or older, except those with a felony conviction who face a restraining order, have the dangerous mental illness, can carry a handgun in public. But they also passed legislation that said we're going to fund teachers to get handgun training for active shooter drills, because we know that guns are the leading cause of death for children. So let me get this straight. Y'all want to ban books, but the thing that actually takes kids' lives, y'all just want everyone to have one freely, willy-nilly. Anybody can have a gun, go packing, and they want them in school so that the teachers can get a hold to them in case of an active shooter. Do y'all remember? I don't understand the philosophy behind this. You know, you say you don't want to corrupt children's minds, but nothing corrupts a mind more than a bullet to the skull. And I know that sounds really hard and that's really drastic, but it's real talk. We had tornado drills and fire drills. They have active shooter drills. But y'all want to ban books. Books like, I don't know, Toni Morrison seems to be top of the list. They're always trying to ban Toni Morrison because, I don't know, the black lady tells a good story? Huh. They want to ban the 1619 Project, and that doesn't have any obscenities in it. They mentioned that one. They also want to ban the hate you give. So you recognize that just because a thing starts off one way doesn't necessarily mean that's how it's going to end up in another way. Take Florida, for example. Their Don't Say Gay bill. Remember, it was only up to 3rd grade, remember? And then we wrote one exactly like it because they get all their bills from Alec. We wrote one just like it, only up to the 3rd grade. But check it out. This week, when he was in China or whenever he left, DeSantis signed a government decree that said, okay, we're not going to talk about gender identity all the way through the 12th grade. You don't think that's going to happen here? So we can't teach 16, 17-year-olds, 18-year-olds about gender identity, especially when these clowns have just said we're not going to allow parents to give gender-affirming care to their trans kids. That also means intersex folks won't get that either. I need y'all to understand. Intersex. I know a lot of people want to say, oh my God, there's only 2 genders. Well, science tells us there's more than that. And there's variations of genders. We already know this. We used to call them hermaphrodites. We learned that was not a comfortable word, so now we call them intersex. That means when they are born, their XY chromosomes may not line up like you think they should, or the anatomy doesn't line up with the chromosomes. We know this to be true. Science has told us this, but these clowns, because they didn't have any gender identity studies in school, don't understand what it means to learn about people who are different than you. This really frustrates me because as a person who is gay, lesbian, gender nonconforming, it's incredibly frustrating to watch people target us again and again and again and again, and all we want to do is live our lives. I'm not saying these things as someone who's looking at it from the outside in. I live this every day. I don't even think y'all understand what I'm saying to me. When I was younger, I'm old now. They don't come for me like they used to when I was younger. But I was younger. Dudes would get so mad at me because I walk around, dress the way I dress, look the way I look, and usually my honey was fine. I'm not even gonna lie. I didn't date. I mean, I have a type. I like pretty women. And fellas would get mad at me. And they would come for me, and they would try to fight me. You don't think that happens now? Now you're saying we're going to pass a bill that's going to make it so that we can just discriminate against this whole group of people. And we're not even going to let you learn about who they are and what they're doing or why they're doing it. Because we don't want you to be educated. Guys, there's a lot going on in the country. More than anything else, democracy is under attack. If you disagree with Republicans in certain states, they're going to censure you and kick you out of office. What kind of nonsense is that? When the democracy is about, I represent my people, I'm going to make an argument for my people. I don't so understand this, but I got to tell you one thing. I heard something really cool today. And some people recognize America is changing. You can no longer hold on to your white supremacy. You can no longer hold on to your homophobia because we will outnumber you eventually. And all of us brown, black, whatever, we gonna come together and we gonna run the country in a loving way. We are not gonna do to you what you have done to us. We don't want to live like that. We don't want that nasty ass karma. And that's real talk. Y'all, Indiana's own Dana Black, I'm just frustrated at the moment because LGBTQ plus folk are under attack. And I'm not talking this as hyperbole. Look at the policies that are being written and tell me where is the lie. All right, I get to talk about Bohm's Unique Boutique because that's my rant. Today's show is brought to you by Bohm's Unique Boutique. Click on the QR code. And for all Turn Left listeners, you can get a 10% discount on your order by using the code Democrat. Be sure to visit www.bohmsuniqueboutique.com. I love it. I love it. I love it. Thank you, Bohm's Unique Boutique, for being my one and only so far, sponsor of Turn Left. We've come a long way. But listen, guys, I know primaries around the corner. Those of you who win your primary races, do you need digital content to go against those Republican nasty behinds? Listen, we need to make sure that we have Democrats at every level of government fighting for us. Not just in Bloomington, not just in Indianapolis, not just in South Bend, not just in Fort Wayne, all over, right? But if you need digital content, hit up your girl. I can do all kind of good stuff for you. You see, I'm kind of technical and I got that skill set. I got you covered. So hit me up. Scan the QR code and let's get together so I can create some digital content for you. All right, let me get to my guests. They shuffled around on me, so let me switch out their names real quick. We're going to put Shruti on top and Carlos on the bottom. All right, so cool thing. I was trying to save the last Thursday for Mayor Hogsett. Didn't work out. I wanted to make sure I gave him a chance, but literally nothing. So the last day, I reached out to Shruti and Dr. Carlos, and they both were available to join me today. I was so excited because I told them, I said, if I can get you in, I'll get you in. And both of them were top of my list. So first up, I have never actually had like a deep down conversation with the brother yet. I've met him a few times. I know he's passionate, and I like the way he speaks. He's an orator, like me. I think I'm older than he is, so I can say he's like me. Y'all give it up, running for Indianapolis City County Council in District 6, Dr. Carlos Perkins. Doc, welcome to the show.
Good evening, sis. Oh, you went on a rant. But it's important, though. It is important for not only the audience that's listening, but those of us that are listening and our allies to be able to share this to our different social network, to our different communities. So thank you for being passionate about it. We need more residents across the state of Indiana that are as passionate as you are about the issues that are happening, not only at the local level, but also at the state level, where laws are made that impact all of us that live across the Hoosier state. So thank you, Dana. Thank you for the invitation, and it's great to be here.
Oh, it's going to be fun. Shruti, Hoosier Women Forward. You know, I got an extra love for all the HWF ladies in the house. I've watched Shruti do her thing. We've been connecting since we was trying to get the AAPI caucus. Remember that? We ain't done. We gonna still get that AAPI caucus. I believe in my heart we need it. She is running for city council in Bloomington, District 5. Y'all give it up for Shruti Rana. Shruti! Welcome to the show.
Hello. Yeah, thank you so much for inviting me here. And it's so great to be here. And I just want to say, before I say anything else, that Dana Black is one of the people who inspired me to run. And if I could do half of what you do, or 10% of what you do, that will be a life well lived. So thank you so much for the inspiration and guidance and leadership. And I'm just so excited to talk to you all today.
Man, y'all already doing it. Yeah, you guys are out here already doing it, you know, and I appreciate the kind words, but let's get to it. So, you know, the Senate, I gotta bring this up. The Senate and the House tried to pass an amendment in the dark of night, like they like to do, that would privatize the lawyers for DCS. And Indy Star reported on it like they trying to insert some stuff, and it got pulled back. You know, one thing that the Republicans always want to talk about, and our candidates want to talk about, and it is important at your level because we recognize that all politics are local: transparency. I'm having a real big issue that, GYM Jordan in Washington is screaming transparency. They scream transparency about, oh my God, we got to out kids in school who want to use a different gender marker. We got to out them to their parents so they can have transparency. But then here you have these guys and ladies who are passing things in the dark of night without debate, without discussion. What does transparency mean to you, and how will you, if elected as city councilors, city county councilors, ensure transparency to your constituents? And I'm going to let the ladies go first. Shruti, you up first.
Thank you. Well, I think that transparency means the opposite of what you just described, right? That you just described people who are acting with an intent to harm, shame, and stigmatize people and feel unaccountable. And I think transparency is really the opposite of that. Transparency is saying, I am here to serve you. What would you like to see? What would you like to see your representative do? What are the issues that matter to you? And what do you care about? And then in turn, it's a trust, right? It's an issue of trust. In turn, your representative says, here is what I am doing for you. I am listening to you. This is what's on the table. These are the things that we're thinking about. What do you think about them? What are your needs? How do you feel? What do you think? What do you want to see happening? And I will help you make that happen. And true transparency is creating this level of public trust, personal trust, and showing that you actually hear people, you actually care what they are thinking, and you're giving them the information to hold you accountable, right? Because that's ultimately what we're here for. We're here to represent people. We're here to create the change that our constituents want to see. And so I think transparency is one of the clearest and most important mechanisms, not only for creating this trust, right, that you know your representative is working for you, but them giving you the information that gives you the power to hold them accountable and ask your representatives to do what you need and to serve your interests in city council or wherever you're serving.
I love it. I love it. Doc?
So Dana, I want to attack it from another side, and thank you for sharing that. Right, I think we have to have an understanding of how things are happening in our state house and why they happen that way. The supermajority that the Republicans have right now in the state house allows them to call and call themselves into session without even notification of the Democratic Party. And I think we need to understand that while we're running in Indianapolis, we're running in Bloomington, and as you mentioned, Fort Wayne and all the other major cities, that we need to mobilize our voters across the state of Indiana, not just in this election, but every election to come. We have an obligation as Democrats to make sure that we mobilize the vote, mobilize our voice across the entire state. We have to shift the state house. We have to shift the governor. We have to shift our Senate. We have to shift our House of Representatives and in our local government. And so we need to understand that. The other part of it is, I think we have done our people a disservice, Dana, where every time around this time of the year, you have commercials out, folks are showing up at your front door, we are canvassing, we have yard signs out, and after the election, folks disengage from the process. I come to this from a community organizing perspective, which means that once you elect somebody into office, you also have an obligation. That's a community in general. Have an obligation to keep that person accountable of what he or she promises that they will do. And so I think as a community, we have an obligation to be engaged in the political process 365 days of the year, 24/7, to make sure that those that come to our doors, that show up at our churches, that send us stuff in the mail, that they stay true to what they promised to the community. For me, running for City County Council for District 6, my promise has been to the community to hold me. I am expecting the community of District 6 to not only vote between now and May 2nd, May 2nd being election day, but after May 2nd to hold me accountable as their city county council.
I love it. I love it. And that's why I wanted to start it off. I wanted to get y'all the teeth into the issue of transparency. But first up, I got to ask, Shruti, tell the people who you are and where you come from.
Sure. So I'm running for Bloomington City Council District 5. And the way I introduce myself, I'm a mom, a lawyer, a professor, and I've been a community advocate ever since my whole career. And if elected, I'd make history in Bloomington as the first woman of color ever on our city council. So I've spent my career as a lawyer working on two different things, which is international business law, solving problems, and also implementing civil rights and human rights protections all around the world. And the reason I decided to run, I was doing this work all over the world, and then Indiana became ground zero for reproductive justice, for gender equality, for all these issues we were just talking about. And I just got to the point where I said, this is all enough, and what I need to be able to do is, I have a 5-year-old daughter. I need to be able to look her in the eye and stand up and say, I did everything that I could for you.
Ain't that it?
And that's the promise that I would make to her, but that's a promise that I would make to all of our children and all of our community. And that is what inspired me to run. And I put together a lot of experience. I was talking about being a community advocate. So I had served our area by, I was chair of the Monroe County Election Board, had to step down in order to run. But I'm currently on our Board of Public Safety, as well as the Commission on the Status of Women. And I've served in a number of leadership roles in groups like All Options, Exodus Refugee, Immigration, Monroe County Now. I helped start the Indiana chapter of NAPOF, which is the National Asian Pacific Women's Forum. And like Dana said, of trying to do things like start an AAPI caucus, just talk about the issues that are facing Hoosiers, that are all of our people, and thinking about how we can work together, how we can build solidarity, how we can do the things that we need to do to overcome what our other guests were just speaking about, right? That this game has been rigged against us. We need to mobilize, we need to build together, come together, and figure out ways to truly accomplish what we need to at the state level as well as the city level.
So we're okay, because what I'm hearing is that it's in you to want to be a servant and to help offer solutions for problems. Was that something that you had, as a super young lady, like a teenager or in high school? That's what I mean. I know you're still young now. I don't mean, you're not old like me.
Yeah. I grew up, so I never did those things like, student government or anything like that, in part because I moved around all over the country. And
Army brat?
My dad was a scientist, and my parents came here as immigrants, and they sort of went through this whole process and pursued whatever opportunities they could and whatever they needed to do, right, to make things happen for their family. And so in all of this, my dad is part of this generation that's called the twice blessed generation. And what that means is when he was born in India right around the time of Indian independence. So he was born into freedom, right? That was blessing number one. Blessing number two was that he came of age after the 1965 Civil Rights Act that allowed non-white immigrants to come to the United States. He came here as one of the first people who come here under those bills in 1968. So he is, he viewed himself as a product of the civil rights movement, the global civil rights movement. And I was raised that way, that we don't take freedom for granted. We don't take voting for granted. And no matter what someone's status is in terms of citizenship or not, my whole childhood was basically going out there and just doing what we could to fight to make sure that, we had rights, that the people around us had rights, that our neighbors had rights. And that is just something that I grew up with, and I wanted my daughter to grow up with too, right? That you never take anything for granted, and you understand, again, like Carlos was saying, that this is an exchange, right? That like we have representatives, but that people need to keep civically minded and civically engaged and hold people accountable as well. So I think that was the spark. I just saw, if you've met my mom, that she will, like, nothing can stop her, right? And she's had so many things and so many people try to stop her. And she was always like, that's it. I'm going to do what I need to do. I'm going to work really hard. I'm going to do whatever I need to do for my family. And I just feel like that was what gave me the power and motivation to run, right? This is my first time being a candidate. I didn't know how to run. Like I was saying, I didn't do student government or anything like that. But what I did feel like is I had this I was raised to never give up, right?
Hey.
Whatever it is that is out there that is facing us, you never, ever give up. And this is what I meant about looking my daughter in the eye. Like, this is what my parents did for me. They never give up. They never stopped fighting for us, for their neighbors, for their community. And this is what I meant about, I owe that to my daughter. I owe that to the people around me. No matter what happens, whatever is going on in our state, I will never, ever give up, and I will always fight for you. And I just wanted to add, I guess, I think about, I could have all the money and power in the world and great positions and all of this stuff, and I have some of those things, but I will never, ever forget what it was like to be a child and be worried that my parents would be deported and taken from me.
Right.
Or worried that my neighbors, friends, family members. And that will, as I said, I will never forget what that feels like, no matter how much power I have or how much money or anything else. And I will always use that to fight for people who are in those situations and feeling the same way.
I love it. I love it. Dr. C, tell the people who you are and where you come from.
Thank you, Dana. And I was echoing that immigrant experience and that immigrant story. One of the most amazing things for me, as I've been on this campaign trail over the last 6 months, and even over this week when we started early voting in Indianapolis, is to walk up and greet our neighbors, our friends, and they say to me, "I know who you are. You are Dr. Carlos, you're Pastor Perkins. We've seen you on television. We've seen you leading the community. We've seen you serving the community." That has been affirming for me, because how I got to the place where I am right now is clearly when I moved to Indianapolis. I got an assignment. I am the pastor of Bethel Cathedral African Methodist Episcopal Church, the oldest Black church in the city of Indianapolis. This year we will celebrate 187 years. When the bishop gave me my appointment on September 11th of 2018, he said to me, "Pastor, I'm not sending you to pastor a church. I am sending you to pastor a community." And I took that appointment, albeit on a piece of paper, but I took those words and I moved to Pike Township with my family. And from day one, from September 11th of 2018, we have been on the ground, not only pastoring the good people of Bethel AME Church, but pastoring and serving the people of Pike Township, the city of Indianapolis, and Marion County. Dana, 2 years ago, as a part of the Black Church Coalition and Faith in Indiana, we engaged in conversations with over 2,000 members of Marion County and the city of Indianapolis over a 6-month period of time. And 3 things came from those conversations. One was the issue around mental health and response to mental health services in the city of Indianapolis and Marion County. 2, the issue around gun violence reduction. And 3, the issue around police accountability. It was advocating for the community, living in a space of community organizing that a year ago, when we called to action, the mayor of the city of Indianapolis, Mayor Hogshead, to set aside money to support a clinician-led crisis team, that really pushed me into this space. As we were inviting the elected officials to our political action, we got a little bit of resistance. And after the political action in March of 2022, less than a month later, our brother Herman Whitfield's parents called for support because he was having a mental health crisis. The police showed up, and in less than a few hours, Herman Whitfield was dead on the floor in their living room. That propelled us into this space where we believe in order for us to serve our community in an effective way, that we need to not only be a part of community organizing, but we also need to be a part of the elected body of our local government. And so that was my motivating factor to run. I am, as I shared, I am a husband, I am a father, I have been an educator for the last 24 years, last serving as principal of Pike Preparatory Academy right there in Metropolitan School District of Pike Township. And so I've lived, work, and worship in the Pike Township community for the last 5 years. My wife is a small business owner. She runs a mental health business right there in Pike Township, where we're providing services and support. It is through our church ministry, that this summer we will not only offer free counseling services. Let me say that again, free counseling services for members of our community, but we also offer a 6-week group for individuals that want to be involved in group counseling. That is part of the work that we do. And so this opportunity to share our vision with District 6, to share our vision with Pike Township is birthed from community organizing, being involved as a community leader and as a faith leader. And so that's how I come to this space, asking the district to trust me with the leadership to be their next counselor. It will also be history made in District 6 because I'll be the first elected counselor for a newly drawn district for 2023. And so we want to share, we have been sharing our platform, we've been sharing our vision, we've been sharing our passion, but above all, I think the residents have really resonated with the fact that I'm not asking to start doing the work, that we've been doing the work, and we're just asking for the opportunity to do the work on this platform.
Woo! Y'all know what? Y'all making me feel like I'm slacking. Yeah, I just want both of y'all to know I'm feeling like I have not been using my time wisely. And Carlos, I got to let you know, I'm feeling some kind of way because my big sis, Anne-Marie Byers, was like, that's my dude. So, I mean, like, if y'all want to know why I am the way I am, Anne-Marie Byers is one of the reasons. So y'all know what kind of cloth I'm cut from. So,
and Anne-Marie has been super supportive because Anne-Marie has been walking alongside us in co-creating and co-producing for the community. And so it's awesome to have members of the community that's been doing the work, that's been sitting in the gap. I met Anne-Marie 5 years ago when I showed up in Indianapolis, and she invited me down to the IPS MLK celebration. And from that moment, I've not been able to get away from her. And so I thank God for the friendship of Anne-Marie and her husband, Brother Byers, who have been a major supporter for us.
Well, let me tell you, she actually knew me when I wore skirts and dresses.
That's been a minute, Dana.
Yeah,
that's been a minute.
That's been a long minute. All right, Indiana's own Dana Black. We are talking to Shruti Rana, who's running for Bloomington City Council in District 5, and Dr. Carlos Perkins, who's running for Indianapolis City County Council, District 6. Okay, guys, let's dive into the issues at hand. Each of you are coming. I'm glad you brought up law enforcement and police reform. Shruti, in Bloomington not long ago, there was an incident at the sheriff's where, a person was abused. Dr. Carlos, we've heard time and time again of all the different issues that are happening in our county jails. Are we ever, as a society, going to deal with the underlying issues that lead to crime and that lead to this over-incarceration? Or are we just going to keep on pretending like there's no underlying issues that are causing people to be in desperate situations?
So I'll start off by saying, Dana, oftentimes when it comes into issues of impacting our communities, we want to deal with the symptoms and not the root causes. So we can get on the platform, we can talk about the increased crime that we have seen in Indianapolis. We can talk about the increased drug use that we have seen in our community, but we're not willing to deal with the root causes. And the root causes for many of these issues are around, one, our education system, our support that we have for individuals that are marginalized, the system of racism and oppression that continues to alienate and separate our people and our communities, issues around power and structure that we're not willing to deal with. And so, I've heard a number of folks talk about what's happening in the city of Indianapolis right now. I will share with you, I had an experience about 2 weeks ago that absolutely just broke my heart. A member of my congregation, his grandson, I got called in the middle of the night to Pastor, can you meet us over at the hospital? Showed up on the hospital. The 17-year-old was laying in the hospital room dead. Watched his mom kiss him on the forehead and to say goodbye. His funeral was today. Right? We have issues in our community that instead of trying to break each other and tear each other apart, we need to be able to deal with the root causes.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And so until we decide to do that, we're always going to be fighting back and forth to try to figure out what are some of the symptoms that we can fix?
Yeah.
We need to deal with the root causes of these issues in our communities.
Shruti?
I would agree. And I would take root causes in two different directions, right? One sort of easy thing for people to say is, oh, by looking at these carceral punitive solutions, people are just trying to take the easy way out. And
Okay,
I think
we simple listeners, you using big words. I'm teasing you, Professor. Go ahead.
That's the lawyer world that she just pulled out right there.
That's right.
We regular people. No, just kidding. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Come on. I should be calling you Doc. Come on with it.
So I was going to say, so sometimes it looks like the easy way is just put people in jail, right? But I think actually it's more than that. It's two directions, right? On the one hand, there are people actively trying to harm and control people by stigmatizing them and penalizing them in certain ways, right? To the example you gave in Bloomington, we also had a prior sheriff who was unlawfully collaborating with ICE and getting people deported in violation of the Constitution, right? We've had numerous instances of racism and things where people have been attacked, right? So it's much more than people looking for an easy way out. It's people actually trying to use these tools that are meant for other purposes to actually punish and penalize people for who they are, right? I mean, for being an immigrant, for whatever it is. Second, I think going on the other side, it's too easy to say somebody did something and therefore they just need to be punished and jail is the only option. What we need to do is look at each other as human beings with problems in need of care that we can do something about, right? It doesn't help anyone to, if somebody has a substance abuse issue, it doesn't help anyone to just put them into prison where they can't get help, right? It doesn't help anyone if there's an issue where law enforcement gets involved, but with sometimes any kind of support at all, or with just some resources, somebody can turn in another direction, or just contribute back to the community in lots of different ways, right? So I just think we need to continue, or at least move on the path of seeing one another as actual human beings where life isn't perfect and we have problems and there's things that happen and there's things in our control, but there's things out of our control. And how do we actually build a community where we're caring for and supporting one another and we see each other as members of that community? And then we wouldn't be focused so much on just, punishing people as opposed to coming up with solutions that actually work in the long term and that benefit all of us.
I love it. That seems to be one of the, criminal justice reform is like at the top of most lists for people of color. When you're being treated differently by the same system, then you know that there's something up. All right, we're going to switch gears just a little bit because I want to hit on a few topics that are pertinent to the people in your districts. Affordable housing. How will you use your role as a city county councilor to help expand affordable housing? Because we seem to not have enough of it. It seems to be the thing every candidate I've talked to this year, affordable housing. So I'm just going to bring it up as a question. Shruti, how are you going to use your role to deal with affordable housing or creating more affordable housing?
Well, this is an incredibly important issue to our future, right? This is what enables people and families to stay in Bloomington as if they can afford to find a place to live. This is what prevents people from coming in and taking jobs or coming to the university or something like that if they can't find something affordable. And so what I think we need to do is act quickly and act in a very inclusive way. And by quickly, I mean, sometimes people look at the solution as like, building more apartment buildings or something like that. Even if that was going to work, that might be 5 or 10 years down the line, right? So I want to look at things like some of the things we're already doing in Bloomington is, for example, we have mortgage assistance for public safety officers, so that under the idea that if a public safety officer lives in the community and is part of the community, they're more likely to build trust and be more accountable, understand the community, but also close by in case of an emergency. We can extend that kind of mortgage assistance to our public school teachers, to social workers, to all sorts of people who, are an incredibly valuable part of our community that we want to be here and investing in and staying in, right? When you have something like the mortgage assistance program, it's a loan that's a loan for a down payment that's forgiven over the course of 10 years. So that's a great investment for a reason for somebody to stay and build their life here in Bloomington. So that's one thing. In terms of FAST, I think we need emergency cash assistance to families families and people in crisis. Again, you want to stop somebody from losing their home before it happens, right? It's much more different when someone's evicted or something like that. And so then the third thing is, if we're thinking about housing solutions and how to make more affordable housing available, I mentioned two ways of kind of putting more resources to the problem. The other thing to do is really talk to people in different neighborhoods and see what they're thinking, what they need in their neighborhood, how it could work, and how we can kind of tailor it to what the particular situation in that neighborhood is, whether it's some kind of emergency situation, whether it's a land use issue or whatever it is, kind of have these tailored solutions. But the main part of that solution is bringing everybody to the table and hearing what people are experiencing, what their concerns are, what they need, right? I was talking about this mortgage assistance program. That's for people who can afford a down payment at all or afford to get a mortgage. What if you can't do that, right? What are the other types of assistance or support or resources can be out there? So that's how I would approach what is a, very complicated and not a problem, but something that's really important for us to solve going forward.
Before you jump in, Doc, Shruti, I'm so glad that you talked about assistance to law enforcement officers, because the General Assembly just passed legislation that prohibits setting residency requirements. And everyone knows if you live in the community, you're going to treat the community a whole lot different than if you come from. I really have a hard time that people are living in Greenwood and then policing people on 42nd and Post. I have a real hard time with that. And now the state is basically saying, well, you can't even set residency requirements. So I like that because obviously it's a good idea. Dr. Perkins, jump on in here with the affordable housing.
So I'm going to approach it from two ways. One is what we have been doing, right, in Pike Township. One of the things that I've done over the last 5 years is to work very closely with the Pike trustee Annette Johnson, in ensuring that residents in Pike Township who are facing eviction or facing missing payments on their rent, that we can support them through the trustee's office, right? So we have to understand the local support that's available. I have received numerous phone calls to my church, through other agencies within the community for folks that need help, and so know where to refer folks or be willing and able to walk them through the process. Mm-hmm. So I want to say that that's there. The other part of that I'm very careful, Dana, in sharing with the community is not to over expect the role of the counselor, right? In how city county council works. And what I've been sharing with residents in District 6, I think from my perspective, one of the main responsibility of the city county council is to approve the budget of the mayor, which means for us, right? So I've heard from so many residents issues around potholes. That's a major thing in Indianapolis that we need to address. And that issue is sitting in the State House, where they get to decide how allocations are made for road repairs in our city, right? And the monies that we send out as a city, not the same amount that we get back in. And so we need to address that across the board. But we also need to know from our city county council that you're willing to work with the mayor and challenge the mayor on his or her priority that they're going to place in the budget, because that's how it's going to impact the community, right? So what monies are set aside for housing and housing development in the city? And so, my role in that, and I've been sharing this with residents over the last 6 months, is to be clear about the role of the city county council as to what we are empowered to do versus what we don't have. I mean, ordinances we do, right? We do issues around road and allocation for road. The budget is, I think, the central issue that the city county council can influence as we go forward and lead the city of Indianapolis and Marion County forward. And I think that's important for us. We see I'll share with you, we did a data analysis last week of my local church community. We took a 1 mile radius around my local facility at 6417 Zionsville Road and look at housing costs over the last 10 years. And the cost of a single family house has gone up 15% in a 1 mile radius around Zionsville, right? So if folks weren't able to afford homes 10 years ago, they definitely not able to afford it now.
Because wages are still stagnant.
The
So
wages are still stagnant. And so we have an obligation to work with those that are elected and those investors that are coming into our communities to make sure that they are building affordable homes for our community. Again, I don't want to overpromise to the community as to the role of the counselor, but I also understand the counselor sits in spaces and around tables that they can influence what happens in the district.
I'm glad you closed out with that, because that's exactly where I was going to hit. Even if we already know that the main role is to approve the budget, but there's also opportunities once you're an elected official to influence things left, right, and center. And you're going to be in spaces that many of us who are not elected will never be in. And so those are like that bully pulpit. I mean, bruh, you know about pulpits. Come on.
I do, Dana. Been doing this for 21 years, so I know all the leverage of the pulpit, which is, again, one of the messages I've been sharing with the district is that, you want to send a leader to the city county council.
Yeah, I love it.
We don't have time. Things are in a place of urgency right now. We don't have time for folks to show up and try to learn on the job, try to figure this out. You need folks that with demonstrated leadership. And how do you measure the ability to lead? Look at their track record in leading.
Well, but they can also be a quick study. So I'm not going to discount those that are quick studies.
They could, yeah. There's some of us that are quick studies, right? But if you're just showing up on the scene right now to say, I want to serve this community, and you've not been serving the community can't trust that, right? Yeah. You can't trust that they have not seen you. Well, we went through 3 years everlasting with the pandemic, right? Everlasting, right? I don't know if
40
you're
pounds
like
later.
Me. I looked outside and said, when is this ever going to end? Right? We needed leadership then. We needed folks that's going to come out in the community and demonstrate their leadership when the community needed us most. And a history of my leadership within Pike Township and District 6 is saying to the community, I've been there. I've been leading the community in this way, and I'm just asking for the opportunity to lead on another
I
way.
love it. I love it. Indiana's own Dana Black, turn left. We are talking to Dr. Carlos Perkins, who is running for Indianapolis City County Council District 6, and Shruti Rana, who is running for Bloomington City Council District 5. All right, guys, let's dig down deep. I took the two big issues off the table, so you can't talk about those, right? Shruti, what are the three issues? Every campaign has a list of issues that they want to tackle, that they want to emphasize in their platform. What are your top three issues? And they obviously can't be affordable housing or the other one I talked about. Criminal justice reform. So you got to pick something else. What are your other three issues?
Right. Well, so my first issue is reproductive justice in all the senses of that word. So I want to expand access to childcare and healthcare by bringing universal pre-K to our Bloomington city schools, bringing more healthcare providers and programs here, and enhancing the continuum of care for people, and also just making sure we have access to whatever healthcare we need that our state is trying to ban.
Well, and,
right?
And I'm glad you said that, because I don't know if you got a chance to see the hearing the other day where the woman from Texas talked about her harrowing story of needing reproductive care, and because of the draconian laws that are being passed, she almost died. And nobody's talking about that. Like, oh no, the unborn child, blah, blah, I get that. But the way these laws are set up, doctors are so afraid to even perform necessary procedures because they don't know. You're turning people who are servants into criminals. And I'm glad hey, sisters with you. Come on, keep bringing it forward.
No, I totally agree. And this is what we already have: a child care and healthcare desert in Monroe County in Bloomington. And we're trying to add to, the state legislature is trying to add to that by driving people away, like you're saying, putting people at risk and putting them at harm. So we can, at the city level, we can strengthen our civil rights and human rights protections. We can try and require or incentivize employers to pay for out-of-state healthcare, to try and, attract more healthcare providers along with employers to our city. So that was my second point, which was fostering this environment that brings good jobs and opportunities to Bloomington, strengthening our civil rights and human rights protections, creating incentives for people to stay, live, and invest in Bloomington, Bloomington. I'll skip housing, but I was going to talk about sustainable neighborhoods and thriving public spaces, access to transportation. So my third point is enhancing public trust and collaborative leadership. We've had a lot of gridlock and contentious kind of government in Bloomington recently, and also between our city and our county officials. And I think we just really need to work together in ways that respectfully ensure that all voices are heard, right? This isn't about, people talk about these cliches about bringing everyone to the table. We need to go beyond that, build that kind of public trust and accountability and transparency that I was talking about earlier, but also think of ways that, we can in different units of government, we can work together. And so, one of my goal is to use my years of experience working on gender and racial justice and equality issues, working on all these city councils and county, boards and things like that, and say, how can we put all of that together and come up with workable solutions and figure out ways that we can treat each other, focus on like processes and procedures and not just fighting all the time, but really get the things that we need to do to get them done.
I want to go back to your second point, which was about creating a space where people want to stay and live. The task that you have is getting through the state level noise. People don't look at Bloomington or Indianapolis, they see Indiana and they're like, oh no, flyover. How are you going to bust through the Indiana stigma to get people to stay in Bloomington?
Right.
To come to Bloomington?
We absolutely have to counter the message that is being sent by our state. We have to send the opposite message that we welcome everyone in Bloomington and we will support you and we will do our best for you. And I understand that there's a limit to what city can do in terms of with respect to what the state can do, but I still think that there is a lot that we can do. And when we talk about people coming in and investing in Bloomington, there are actually some opportunities. People think of Indiana as this red state that's going around banning healthcare and stigmatizing people and doing all these things.
They are.
But interestingly, we have it is all of those things. We have an opening with things like sustainable green technology. Those kinds of companies are looking at places like Indiana to invest. For whatever reason, our state leaders have dialed down the climate change denial and are embracing clean technology. And that gives us an opening, right? That gives us an opening to go to a company, these companies that think of themselves as so progressive and working on renewable, clean energy, and say, if you are going to come here, you need to support us and fight for us too. You need to tell our legislature, you need to work with our legislature and say, if you want to expand here, if you want to locate your people here, possibly bring them from all over the world, then they need access to healthcare. They need strong public schools. They need all of the protections that, should just be a part of being a regular human being, right?
Exactly.
The dignity that we're all entitled to.
I love it. Dr. P, what you got? What are your 3 issues? You don't get to talk about criminal justice reform. You don't get to talk about affordable housing.
So let me share, Dano, we lifted this before. Our number one issue is about mental health response and the crisis that we're facing, not only in the city of Indianapolis, but across the state, which has led to our advocacy for the SB 1 this year in the Senate, which was passed unanimously in the Senate, passed in the House. Unfortunately, the Republican led state legislation did not fund it in a way that we asked for. A matter of fact, the Behavioral Health Commission estimated a need of $260 million over the next 2 years to address the issue of mental health in the state of Indiana. The Republican-led legislature only passed and put in $100 million in the budget. It is a win because the bill was passed. There were some resources that were allocated, but it's not enough to deal with what we're seeing across the state, and especially in the city of Indianapolis. We got the mayor to commit $2.5 million for this year, for 2023. We've been rolling out the clinician-led team for first quarter into second quarter. And so that has been our first issue. Our second issue is something that's been near and dear to me, is climate care and climate justice. I've been working with Earth Charter Indiana, as well as Resilient Pike, which is a local climate care, climate advocacy organization right there in Pike Township, that have been partnering with the school district over the last 5 years to do climate education within our schools. A matter of fact, shameless plug for this organization, because I'm super excited about this. On this Saturday, not tomorrow, but the day after, we are actually planting an outdoor classroom in one of our elementary schools in Pike Township, a new New Augusta South. That has been the work that we have been engaged in for the last year in Resilient Pike in terms of education with our young people in our school district, but education and advocacy across the board. Our third issue is around safety and security. Let's not be naive. We have seen the increase in violence across our city. We have seen the increase in gun violence across the city. And so our commitment and determination is not only to reduce gun violence, but also to make sure that we are putting resources in our community, that we're disrupting the root causes of what we are seeing manifesting now. It also means that I need to be safe and secure in our neighborhoods. I need to be safe and secure in our community. I should be able to walk in my neighborhood on Zionsville Road on a sidewalk without feeling like I'm going to get hit by the car, or I can bike around the city without feeling like it's not safe. And so those are the three issues that we've been anchoring on our campaign, and we're hoping it's been those issues are resonating with our communities. We have heard from so many residents that are willing to walk alongside us as we're seeking their confidence and vote to be the council for District 6. And Pike Township. And it's not only Pike Township, because I have 3 precincts in Washington South Township on the southeastern part on the southwestern part of Washington Township. And so those are the issues that are near and dear to us.
You go all the way over to Michigan Road?
I go all the way over to Michigan Road. So we have 3 precincts that intersection of Michigan, Kessler, 56th Street, around that area, that we have 3 of the precincts that's there. That's a part of the map, Dana. They did some creative drawing.
Oh, honey, that's what they do.
In the map for this year.
And yeah, that's what they do. And you know what? And I'm glad I have you both on, because you guys have been touching on, Shruti, when you talked about bringing industry in. I gotta give a shout out to Cook. Because Cook is a Bloomington company, but they have invested in Indianapolis, on the east side of Indianapolis, thanks to Ashley Gervitz and the work that she's doing over there. Superstar, 40 under 40, IBJ, all of that. I sit around and just marvel at all the things she's doing. But there's another Bloomington, Indianapolis connection where Cook Industries, trying to be a good global citizen, has invested in some of our most neglected areas of our city, and I love it. Guys, I hate to tell you this, but the show's almost over. Like, this was so good. You guys have, first of all, I have 3 things that I am taking away from this conversation. 1, y'all are both lobbyists. You have been lobbying for your people long before you decided to run for office, which is one of my pillars when I do my Power of the Black Vote, being a lobbyist. 2, you're taking your street advocacy and turning that into elected advocacy, which I find amazing, because people don't know that when you start bringing attention to something in the street, that's when you can get policy out of it. So y'all both have been doing that. And the other thing, and I don't know if anybody else caught this, but both of you all are global citizens. Even though you are very much interested in your specific city, county council districts, both of you touched on global things and our role as humans in them. That is a very unique combination that the two of you possess. And I didn't already know that. So look, don't be mad at me, y'all. I just had to point out the obvious. All right. So, Dr. P, tell the people where they can find you.
Absolutely. So, and I thank you for raising that last point, Dana. One of the uniqueness of Pike Township is the growing diversity that's there. And I believe that both from my background and my experience in a global context, that will speak to the experiences of the residents in Pike Township and Washington Township. We are one of the most diverse parts of Indianapolis, and we are very much proud of it. Please go check out our platform. We are on social media at Perkins for City Council. That is the number 4, Perkins for City Council. We are on Facebook. We are on Instagram. We are also on Twitter. You can also check out our website, Perkins for City Council, to read more about our candidacy, to read about our background. And let me encourage all of the residents of District 6, Pike Township, Washington Township, across Indianapolis, across the state, get out and vote. Early voting started last Saturday. We will be at the Pike Library on tomorrow from 11 to 6 p.m. We have early voting tomorrow and on Saturday and on Sunday. And if you don't get a chance to early vote, make sure that you have a plan to vote on May 2nd. Carlos Perkins, Dr. Carlos Perkins for City County Council District 6. Thank you, Dana, for this opportunity to share our vision and our passion with your audience.
Well, I think the pleasure was all mine because I'm getting all the feels over here. Shruti, tell the people where they can find you.
Great. Well, I just want to say I love what you said about being a global citizen, because the issues that we face, like climate change, gender and racial justice, these are global issues, but how we can solve them is working at our local city levels, and, you know, working together to address these problems. So one of my secondary goals has been trying to make sure people know how to spell and say my name, and that maybe it'll become a household name in Indiana too, right? So, my name is spelled S-H-R-U-T-I, and you can find my website at electshruti.com. So elect, S-H-R-U-T-I.com. And I'm on Facebook as Elect Shruti Rana, Instagram as Shruti for B-Town D5, and Act Blue. One of the cool things I found out about my name is that I'm apparently the only person on Act Blue with my first name. So I got the donate/Shruti link. So
and if you guys like what these candidates are talking about, their Act Blue links are on the live feed. So click on it, give them $5. It's still not too late. It's not too late. You can still donate. And are you guys doing any last minute door knocking?
Absolutely. So we are out in the community tomorrow. We are out in the community on Saturday and on Sunday. We have a major team going out on Saturday. We will be doing souls to the polls. Amen. We are calling all of our clergy folks, all of our faith leaders after worship service on Sunday or on Saturday or on Friday night. Walk with your congregation to the nearest polling station and cast your vote. We want to make sure that our voices are heard this election season. So we are out Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Monday is a rest day for what Tuesday is going to be on the 2nd. And so we hope that folks will get out and vote. We have to increase our vote numbers. This is an off-year election, and we want to make sure that our voters take the opportunity, all of our residents take the opportunity to cast their vote in this year's election.
I'm going to correct you, Doc. It's not an off-year election. It's an odd-year election.
Odd year.
It's either an even year or an odd year. We don't get no off time around here. All right, Shruti, you got anything, any volunteer opportunities for folks?
Yeah, we want to make sure that everyone who can casts a ballot and that every vote is counted. And we are going to be out there nonstop until Tuesday. And I just want to say it's been the honor of a lifetime to meet and talk to all of my neighbors in this community. And we're just going to keep doing that all weekend. Anyone who wants to volunteer, we're knocking doors Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. We're phone banking. I think I'll be out there on Monday. I'll be out there all day on Tuesday. And I'm just looking forward to meeting more people and making sure more people get down there and exercise their right to vote.
I love it. We have Shruti Rana. See, you said it right, and I've been saying it wrong the whole time. Shruti Rana, who is running for Bloomington City Council District 5, and Dr. Carlos Perkins, who's running for Indianapolis City County Council District 6. All right, guys, listen. You heard me getting all heated. They're talking about, the bills and the issues and the attacks on the LGBTQ plus community. But one of the things that we can do to protect our community is to elect more LGBTQ plus folk and our allies. On June 17th, y'all, I've been working on this for a while. The Indiana Stonewall Democrats will be hosting at Cafe Patachou from 5 to 7, former mayor of Houston, Texas, and now president and CEO of the Victory Fund and Victory Institute, Mayor Anise Parker. Why is this? What do we do with the money that we raise? All of the money that we raise go to our endorsed candidates. Our endorsed candidates have a questionnaire that they fill out, and we give them money. We pretty much are always tapped out by November, by the time the election rolls around, because our goal is to make sure that we offer, as an organization, Indiana Stonewall Democrats, the financial means of helping candidates get elected. So please, I put the link in the chat. Please get a ticket, buy a table, become a sponsor, and help us root out the hate at all levels of government. Guys, thanks again for joining us tonight. You all have been fantastic. This is one of the best conversations I've had. This is really good. You guys are amazing candidates. I wish y'all the best of luck on Tuesday, because Tuesday is the day. Y'all, do y'all want me to do a live show on Tuesday night? Hit me up, but I definitely will be doing a Thursday recap, because there's some key races all over the state that I want you guys to pay attention to. One up in Gary, Mayor Prince is going against Senator Eddie Melton. Eddie Melton is obviously the challenger. That is a key race. There's a lot of council seats that are up that are primaries. They have primary opponents. Honestly, I only deal with the Democrats. I'm really not all that worried about them until we get through the primary season. But I got to tell you a quick story. I was on another show the other night, and I was interviewing all Republicans. I didn't hold any punches. I need y'all to understand. I ask the tough questions, okay? Now, with my Democrats, this is all about love. I want to show them, my Democrats, the love that the other outlets just won't do. Indiana's own. Listen, next Thursday, we're going to have a recap show. So no guests next Thursday. It's just going to be me. We're going to go down through, and so you guys know who won in all the key races. But until then, get out and vote. Get out and vote. Get out and vote. I mean, there's nothing else to say. Get out and vote. I brought you the candidates. We have had interviews all season up until now, interviewing candidates. Get out and vote. Do your job. Do your job in this civically controlled civic engagement that we do. We are the citizens. We are the people. The largest words on our Constitution. We are the people. So get involved, do your duty, and cast a vote. In the meantime, I will holler at y'all next week. Peace. Turn Left is the property of Black Pearl IT Solutions. Executive producer, Indiana's own Dana Black. Music by www.bensound.com.